Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to a 3-point victory edition of RFK Refugees Podcast. I am your host, John Hoffman, and with me is not Ted. Producer Brian's in the house. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing well, John. How was your weekend?
It was besides the obvious, we'll leave that to the side. It was a good weekend. I was at I went to a princess ball on one of the nights. That was precious. And then I, got to watch a bunch of soccer all weekend, and had played baseball outside, had brunch. It was just I was winning all over the place, up and down, on and off the field. What about you? What'd you get into this weekend?
About 100 pounds of laundry. But you'll get that every couple of weeks. So
Sure. Yeah. You either spread it out or you take all the pain at once.
yeah,
There's no way to escape it. So I think we want to start the show with the biggest news, and that is Snickers and the Washington Spirit have come to an agreement that Snickers is going to be the official, I believe, candy bar of the Washington Spirit. So there's nothing else going on that's more important than that. We want to make sure we covered that first. Brian, how can you react to this? What are your thoughts? So do you have Snickers feelings?
I often find myself hungry when I'm either watching a soccer match or not watching a soccer match, and I've come to know over the years that if I'm hungry, I should not wait. Should see Snickers, and I'm really happy that the Spirit have embraced this particular way of filling that void in my life.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be activations. I'm sure there will be. I mean, they should do ads. I feel like they should they should meme it up a lot on social just because of this agreement. They should. If they don't, I think they'll regret it. But let's just drop the artifice here. The real important thing here is the 2024 season started, and it started in the best possible way with DC United winning at home against New England Revolution, a team often talked about as a perennial, or at least recently perennial, North or Eastern Conference powerhouse. And DC United just laid the wood to them pretty much the whole game. If you look at the XG charts, it's a pretty extensive paddling even before one little bit of thing that changed the entire makeup of the game. But I want to get started by looking at the lineups. This is a question a lot of us had because we didn't see any of these games for reasons that have not been discussed anywhere, particularly not on this podcast. But we have not seen this team in action. So let's get into what this lineup looked like. It was a 4-2-3-1. Alex Bono in net. We knew that was going to be the case. We did not know what the backline was going to look like. We had Lucas Bartlett. Oh, cool. They didn't put it in order, so I have to think about it on the fly. Lucas Bartlett and Christopher McVeigh in the center back pairing. Pedro Santos at left back and Aaron Herrera at right back. This was a point of concern because all these players other than Pedro Santos were new. Pedro Santos in no universe was the intended first choice left back for this club, but we'll get into that a bunch, I think. But that was the first back line of 2024. In midfield was the somewhat obvious, potentially after we heard the Russell Canouse news of Mateus Click and Matty Peltola in the midfield, and then a front four of Ted Dipietro, Gabriel Pirani, Jared Stroud, and Christian Benteke. You don't really need to get. We'll do it. We got time. Henrik Ravas, who is the latest goalkeeper by New England, intended to potentially go play in the Premier League, is the hope. Maybe not after this game, but certainly that was the hope, I think, in the beginning. Dave Romney, who is, as we heard in the Champions League game in midweek, is a distant relative to Mitt Romney. Thank you to the announcer there for letting us know that. It's good stuff. He was paired with Jonathan Mensah, Nick Lima starting his first game, I believe, since coming over from Austin as a free agent signing, and DeJuan Jones, who had a fantastic game. We'll talk about him too, I think, probably in this game. Noel Buck in midfield, along with Matt Polster. Carlos Gil, just the danger man. Tomas Chanticleer, which I'm butchering, and I'm definitely going to butcher Esmir Barahataravic, and Giancarlo Vrioni, who wasn't there long, but we could talk about him too. What did you think when you saw this lineup before the game?
I was definitely concerned about how we would come out, not having seen this defense, not having seen any part of this defense besides, that Santos last season, and then a couple clips of Herrera getting scorched in preseason game at Dallas. So I wasn't exactly I didn't know what to think. I was excited, I think, to see Gabriel Pirani, which we'll get to a little bit about how well that excitement landed. But I was mostly curious to see how we would come out of the gates.
Yeah, I think we're all sort of in that place. I think, we talked about the predictions before the show. I had a 3-1 loss on the books. Ted had a 2-2 draw. Obviously, I was way more wrong than he was, but I just didn't know what to expect given what we had been told and given a completely new back line for the most part, and just a lot of variables up in the air. And right from the start, DC United was on the front foot, was pressuring the whole way. And it really started from me. It started with Jared Stroud. I think he was a dynamo all game. We talked about this when you and I were on IG Live. He reminds me of a Paul Arriola as far as a motor goes. He is on the right side of the field. He's in the middle of the field. He might even find himself on the left-hand side. Who knows? He defensively very aggressive. His first move is always up the field towards goal. I'm really excited to see him. I am sure talking a little bit of mess about him in the season before, where it's like, oh, Chris Durkin traded for two guys that I didn't know on St. Louis, which is all my fault. He had 8 goal contributions last year. That's just me being a lazy DC United fan. But they were pressure from the onset. I think that New England was giving the ball away in some dangerous spots. They were trying to play out of the back a little bit. I thought it didn't really carry off so well. Almost immediately, something happened that would become impactful. Is Vrioni deciding to be a bit of a dick and just block a free kick from Matthias Klick for no reason in the 12th minute. Not something you typically want to do. I don't know if he thought maybe replacement refs were unaware of infringing on a free kick as being a yellow cardable foul. I don't know. As soon as that happened, again, I think the game, if you look at the XG chart, aside from, and I don't have the minute this happened, but aside from the Alex Bono save, which could have changed the game on its head, I don't know if that was before the red card or after the red card, but I think that was that Vrioni on goal, or was it Gill on goal?
Yeah, that was about like at 19 minutes. I think there was the save, but it was very shortly before the aforementioned red card.
Gets the leg down on the near post, doesn't get beat, deflects it out. I think it was Bartlett or McVeigh that headed it out for a corner. But that was the moment. I think it very clearly. There were a couple of moments in this game where your past experience with DC United allowed you to be very, very pessimistic, and the dark clouds were quickly approaching. But that didn't happen. But then, as a gift, a opening night gift for DC United. That was not the only dumb thing Vrioni did. Vrioni also got a second yellow on a tackle on who? Do not remember who it was on. It's on the left side of the field. Was it Santos?
It might have been Santos.
Don't remember.
I also don't remember who it was on, but also not like a very clear yellow, but not a yellow that was needed. We weren't in necessarily like a dangerous, transition. He just slid in, threw a leg up, left a leg dangling in the air. Very clear yellow card, and he was sent off. And I think that from that moment on, I think that's when DC, really started to sort of smell blood and go for it a little bit harder.
The foul was on McVeigh, it appears, based on the ticker here. So, again, to your point, was not a goal threat all the way out there. I would say the first half, the things that were notable were Pirani and Ted Dipietro not necessarily being sharp. I give Pirani a little bit of a pass based on the fact he spent most of the preseason in a tournament with Brazil, with the under-21s, I believe. Ted just did not look sharp. He did not look. He looked like he had the weight of the shoulders, weight of the world on his shoulders a little bit. Was taking shots from outside the 18, being blocked over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about all offseason that basically because of the lack of a secondary scoring option being acquired in the window, it's gonna have to be him. So I think there's gonna be a lot more attention to him, and he's gonna have to work maybe a little bit harder to create his own shot, particularly if that's what they're gonna leave him.
Yeah, I think one thing I noticed too, reflecting on the game is those three, so Stroud and Dipietro and Pirani, had a little bit of freedom to move inside and outside. I think Stroud had a little bit more comfort just playing up and down the lines on the outside. I think, I often found myself squinting at the TV trying to figure out whether it was Pietro or Pirani picking up something and driving into the middle. Um, I don't think they really got their interplay kind of humming until the second half, and that interplay largely was Ted cutting inside with runs inside and being a little bit more effective there.
Pirani's stats, just for a quick buzz here, played 74 minutes, XG of 0.68, X assists at 0.14. 46 touches, 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 3 accurate crosses, dispossessed twice, 1 attempted no tackles, which, by the way, if you listen to Roach's podcast with Charlie Boehm this week, they were talking about how little defensive work Pirani does as a 21-year-old. And the idea was like, you are not good enough yet to just play half of the game. So maybe you can consider doing that. But he was 1 for 5 on ground duels and dribbled past once. So did not cover himself in glory on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I think certainly could have had some, was left a little bit to be desired. But it's early days. He didn't have a lot of time to work with the team. I would say, too, we talked about this at halftime. If you joined us on Instagram, again, that's a plug. We're going to be doing that every game, hopefully. That's the plan. We were talking about Christian Benteke being a little bit wasteful in front of goal. He did score in the 34th minute on a goal that required VAR, which I think they said that there was 12 VAR calls this weekend, which is above normal by a lot. But Christian Benteke, that was a header that it got over the line, or did he? I'm trying to remember the setup.
Yeah, no, there was a header down into the foot of the goalkeeper.
That's right. It was header, kicked ball, header. That was the hat trick. It was the I don't know if I think the Benteke hat trick is probably just 3 headers, because it's just a matter of like lay it up and let the big man dunk it. But it went. By the way, too, the coolest thing about the goal and the VAR, I'm not sure you've seen the video footage. I'm sure you probably have, actually. When they're showing him leaving the VAR footage, and you see the referee like point towards the center circle, but Benteke's in the way, so it just looks like he's like pointing at him, and then the whole team goes around. It's a cool look. I hope they utilize it for a lot of stuff. But an early lead for DC United, and I would say they were rarely troubled. I mean, we'll talk about the thing. We'll talk about the big thing. But they were still had they were way on the front foot after the goal. Jared Stroud should have scored in the first half. Hit I believe hit it off the crossbar, and then the rebound he was unable to put back on frame. But it was a slam dunk. And Benteke had another opportunity where he was inside the 6 and should have scored and did not.
Mm-hmm.
But we end the half up 1-0.
Yep. So we brought up the VAR review. So was that 12 overrulings or 12 times they went to VAR?
I think just 12 times they went to it. I don't have the breakdown of, because it seems like everyone that I've watched has been a clear and obvious error that they've corrected.
Yes. It's 2024. Lionel Messi plays in this league. And we don't have goal line technology, let alone a camera that can look at the goal line.
Yeah.
Now,
the angles they were showing on the VAR were not super helpful.
No. I believe it was the right call. I also believe that if we hadn't had substitute referees, there's no way that MLS standard, like by the book VAR, is overturning that, right? Like
Mm.
if you're at the well, here's an example. If you're at the point where you're determining goal or not goal, and your answer is to call the center referee over to look at the screen and look at angles, that's not happening. Last season. But I'm happy we got the goal. We'll need a couple to go our way this season if we want to make the playoffs. But yeah, the amount of money coming in this league now, put a GoPro up there or something, so we can see the goal line.
I didn't give Pedro Santos his due there. He got the assist on the Benteke goal, so that's something. In the post game stats, they called that out. He created 3 chances and had 5 interceptions, which they didn't talk about. Maybe being beaten off the dribble or turnovers, but
Yep.
they did highlight that. And I don't. And by the way, being mad, I want to be nice to Pedro because first of all, he may be our only left back on the team, other than Connor Antley. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's like being mad at a truck for not being a Ferrari. He's 36, 37. I always forget. I want to give him 1 year on the other end of it. He's gonna be beaten for pace, and teams are gonna target him. But he shouldn't necessarily be your starting left back on a team that's trying to compete, particularly against a team that is trying to take the game to you. I think he's a good left back when you're chasing the game, maybe like a late game offensive option, but maybe not a 90-minute option when you have a whole game to manage. So it's not his fault. But anyway, he's what we got right now. We'll talk about that.
35 years, 310 days, John. You added
there we go.
At least
I did. How dare I? I will not. I'll round down. He's 35. He's not. It's not the other thing I said. So we get to halftime. Kind of curious about how the rest of this game's going to go. We got a man up. Historically, DC United typically plays worse with a man advantage. They don't know how to break down a team in a low block. And what usually seems to happen historically is that they will give up a late equalizer. And then sometimes even a second goal and lose the game has happened. But there was no substitutions at half. Santos and Stroud pick up early yellow cards. Did not seem to matter. Ian Harkes comes in at the 61st minute. That's a reminder for those of you who do not remember that Ian Harkes is now a member of the Revolution. You should remember because he scored against DC United last year and celebrated, and people got mad. But he was there. His dad was there. His dad was there because this was Legends Night, and they were dedicating the press box to Dave Johnson, the It's in the Net press box, which I think is wonderful. By the way, if anyone is listening that cares about this, you've got to figure out your radio contract. And I don't know. They probably have the utilization numbers. I only use the radio call for DC United games at home games. I don't listen to whoever else is doing it. So
Best additional feature from going to Apple TV if we're going to lose like the regular home feed, and killer feeling that it's not there now. So if you're hey,
Tim Cook.
I know our most active Twitter fan base is a Washington Spirit fan base. So if you're tuning in hoping to hear about the Spirit and you missed the Snickers news, now's your time to tweet at the team to make sure they get this radio deal locked up.
Yeah, please do that. That'd be great. So let's talk about the 67th minute. Carlos Hill scores a curler, upper 90, far post. Just phenomenal goal. Just a goal that you have to just say, hey, what are you going to do? Not much we could do about that. The turnover, I have yet to watch. I've watched little bits and pieces of it the second time around. But it was a goal that I know that I was particularly thinking, A, unsavable, B, we are absolutely going to lose this game somehow. It is for sure going to happen.
And I think too, for me, it highlighted, like I'm sitting there and I'm watching him dribble through the midfield, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is what we're missing. This is the thing that I don't know what we have on this team with all of the new additions. I think, we'll get to some of the bright spots of what we have, but Benteke Benteke is not going to do that, right?
No.
And I think that we all hope that either, maybe that's something Ted can grow into. You know the
There are people
I've
that think
never.
it's Pirani based on the fact that he wears a number 10 and that he
Yeah,
should be able to do it.
he's not that kind of
No.
number 10. We've never seen that sort of thing out of him.
No.
But when I think about some of the things that differentiate, um, like okay teams from good teams, is they have somebody that can take a moment and like create a moment of brilliance, and
Yep.
do it consistently, and he's done that throughout his career. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I hated to see it go in because it was an absolutely beautiful goal. I don't like I don't know if it was up for goal of the week. It probably wasn't because they lost.
Mm-mm. It wasn't.
But yeah, if they'd won, that would have been a top candidate for goal of the week. It was a beautiful shot, and hated to see it go in.
I think you're right. Like think about the Zelarayan, Cucho, Hani Mukhtar, the player that can create a goal from nothing from different
Hmm.
spots on the field. Don't have it. Don't have it.
Nope.
That will be a thing they have to. I don't have to address. To your point, if Ted becomes Ted magically advances his career like
Right.
2 seasons at a time, or Pirani does too. There's a lot of this team, and I think we talked about it all in the offseason. I still sometimes crack up the fact that we continue to podcast all through the offseason with no news and have to, but we do and did. And we looked at the fact that, like, this team is hamstrung on a salary cap basis. They have 2 aging DPs. They had to get an under 22 or a young DP to be able to fill the under 22 spots, whatever the deal was.
Hmm.
They're basically looking at like next season when they're able to do that, when they're able to go
Hmm.
spend the money. And I'm starting to believe that they will. This year is about, okay, our ceiling is somewhat limited by the fact that we can't do that. All right, but to succeed next year, we need these 3 or 4 players to get enough minutes and prove themselves enough that they can be complementary pieces to that number 10 that we bring in, or whatever the position may be. So it's weird because we're in this sort of having to accept 2 different ideas at once about what the season is we get all excited because of this game and we go forward and say we're gonna challenge for the playoffs. It's almost incidental. It doesn't really matter for the long-term top end success of this team. It's about, can you develop these 4 players, and those 4 players are Ted Dipietro, Christian Fletcher, maybe Gabriel Pirani,
Hmm.
and then Peltola. Can he be a guaranteed 6 in this league that doesn't get pushed off the ball and knows what he's doing at all times, and it has the speed ready to go? If you can get those 4 players humming at a level higher than they are right now, next year you go spend that money, and then you're talking about, all right, there's no reason we can't be looking at 3-4 in the East.
Right. Right.
So in the second half, Connor Antley comes on for Santos in the 68th minute. Santos is cooked. His legs are dead. There were people there who were one of our Twitter followers who I met, I think, one time in I think I met him when I was sitting in the Eagle Bank Club at the Cincinnati game, where we lost like 5-2 or whatever that crazy game
Hmm.
was at the end of the season. But he was saying that he sat right in front of him, and it was hilarious. He hit a wall, like a fitness wall, and his sharpness just went completely in the toilet. He got beat over and over again, gave the ball up. I'm trying to see if I can find him very quickly. I'll tell you what, this is from Carlos Pablo. I'll tell you what, after having a front row seat to Santos in the second half, when he tanks hard. At around the 55-minute mark, you can tell the gas tank was empty. Countless mental and tactical errors ensued. Left back is absolutely an area of concern. So he saw it right up close, but we all saw it on TV. Also true. Christian Benteke saves the day once again. Turns from 67th minute to 72nd minute. I was Eeyore. I was for sure. I was like, I'm going to have to talk about this stupid game. I can't believe it once again. But this time, Benteke scores off Connor Antley in his first game, and only 4 minutes after his arrival, crosses the
Hmm.
ball to the center of the box. I believe it was it flicked on by. I'm trying to remember. Was it Aaron Herrera to Antley to Benteke?
I think so. There was a flick on to Benteke just to poke it home.
Sorry,
Um,
Herrera was the assist in the third goal. So,
yep.
but scores with his feet there, gets it over the line. We have a 2-1 lead. We are feeling pretty confident at that point. We empty the bench at this point. 74th minute, Dahomey comes on. Fletcher comes on. Fletcher then comes on the 74th minute, gets a yellow card in the 77th minute. Not great. Not really great for your foot mob score or anything else. And then Jackson Hopkins also comes on at the 83rd minute. So I want to talk about this for a second. The team as it's currently constructed. So that's the whole bench. The benches that started was Zamudio, Dahomey, Antley, Hopkins, Fletcher, Akambone, and Rodriguez. So you have one veteran. You have Dahomey and you have Rodriguez right now.
Yep.
So obviously, I think what's going to happen is you're going to find out. Well, Birnbaum will re-enter this picture at some point, and as will Russell Canouse, which is a question, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But it is obvious that from an attacking standpoint, you're going to rely on youth. You didn't make the moves in the offseason. You couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
This is who's going to come in to change the game. So all the complaining we have done about Dahomey, we got to get over it because he's going to be your game changer. He's potentially a left wing back in an attacking situation. Jackson Hopkins, Christian Fletcher have to be able to contribute. They have to be able to pull the weight and they have to be able to advance. Jackson Hopkins, not really a factor in my mind in the short appearance. And Christian Fletcher gave the ball away, didn't understand where his teammates were going. I will put both of those down to nerves in a full house in Audi Field, but it's just something we got to look at. We always used to complain about why did Ben Olsen never use his substitutes? And look at this bench. That's the reason why. Similar story here, man. This is the starting 11 have to make it happen. I think more times than not. So that's just something to look at as the season continues.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the icing on the cake, the slam dunk at the end. Aaron Herrera crosses. Benteke out jumps a Henrik Ravas who should feel really bad about it, and in fact already apologized to Caleb Porter, and Caleb Porter was like, yeah, he knows he should have got it. Out jumps him, dunks it in, scores the third. Good night, see you later. DC United escape. I don't want to say escape because that means like they got out easy. Yeah. DC United dominate, get 3 points, are on top of the table. You said third in the supporters group, the supporters shield ranks right now based on goal differential or something.
And part of that's due to the fact that Miami's played twice.
That's right. So that's a big part of it. So just to break down on the stats real quick, possession 53%, which is interesting for a game in which we had the man advantage for most of it, which tells you New England wasn't trying to lay over and die, but it just sort of turned out that they just couldn't be effective with it. 75% passing accuracy, 343 of 459 for DC, 69% for New England. DC United had 30 shots. Are we sure about that? 5 on target. If FBref is correct.
I'm gonna double check FootMob and make
sure. Yeah, that would be a lot of shots.
Yes, 30 shots, 5 on target.
Okay, so that's counting all of the block shots on Ted Dipietro. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the 2 or 3 misses. I think Christian Benteke himself had like almost like a 3xG.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's weird. That's a stat you're on. Like 5 of 30 is not going to be a stat you see every week. And New England was more efficient with 5 out of 10 shots being on frame. 4 saves for Bono, 2 saves for New England. 3 yellow. Well, I'm not going to trust these yellow card stats. DC United only had 7 corners the whole game. Just sort of the dictate of the way the game was being played. So if you're betting corners, hopefully you pick the under. By the way, I talked about how I bet against DC United on this game. I pulled that bet out before the game started because I felt that it was not. So thankfully, that's the one bet I didn't lose any money on. Trying to see if there's any other. DC United aerials 122, New England 13. Yeah. That is indicative. Most of those are on goals. Some of those are on Benteke goals.
Yeah, you talked about the possession stats, but I do think it's important to note that most of New England's possession was in their own half. They had 8 touches in the DC United box the whole game to 49 for us on their end. So we definitely kept the game on their end of the field, which I think is something that even at our best over the last couple of years, we struggled to do. and you mentioned escaping, and I think um, even when DC's won in the last couple years, it does feel like a long time since we've dominated a game and won. I feel like the games that we've dominated are the ones where um, Benteke misses 6 out of 6 shots instead of 3 out of 6 shots,
Yep.
and we lose 1-0, 2-0 at home with like 60% possession. So I think it's different to have a feeling of control of a game.
Yep.
I think there's been times where we've won. To me, it feels like it. Even when we were at our best under Rooney, and wow, my mind has left me.
Lasada.
Lasada, certainly that was not what he was looking. He wasn't looking to control the game. So sometimes Benny Ball had us do that in our own half,
Right.
for a long time, but it felt good.
It did. I want to go over some individual stats. I'm going to ask you, who do you think had the highest number of each of these stats? Who do you think had the most shots during this game?
Stroud.
Pirani with 8.
Pirani. Wow.
Shots on target, who do you think had the most?
Benteke.
That would be correct.
Okay.
Pirani had 8 shots, one of them on target. By the way, he also had a 0.7 xG, and that's just on, I think, sheer volume of almost shots. They must have gave him that. Highest number of touches. This is somewhat. It's usually going to be defenders, but who do you think was the most?
Santos.
Santos was second at 59. Bartlett
Okay.
was 62. The only non-defender in that number was Matthias Klick at 56. So he had some better numbers too as well. Who had the most tackles?
Herrera.
Teddy.
Wow.
So that if you think about all the times they were turning over possession inside the opponent's half, it was that. Interceptions. I think I already said this number. Santos. That's
okay.
who it was. Most blocks.
Peltola.
I will give you a hint. It's not a defender.
Okay. Not Peltola though.
No.
Not Maddie.
Nope. Maddie had none.
None. No blocks.
No
Klitsch?
blocks. Jared Stroud.
Okay.
I just wanted to. His numbers are fantastic. This whole game, he had a 1 xG. He had 7 shot creating actions, which is something this team needs a lot of, particularly if Pirani is as some Joe Lowry, for instance, from Backfield says, is not a chance creator. You need players that can do that. Highest number of passes completed, and I will get rid of the defenders because I think that's expected.
Did they have to play the whole game?
No.
Dahome.
I'm sorry. Number of completions, not percentage.
Number of completions.
Yeah.
McVay.
Klick. Well, McVay was overall 44.
Okay.
Klick was number 2. And I just want to highlight Klick again too. He had 11 progressive passes, which is most in the team behind, right in front of Pedro Santos, who had 10. He didn't have a lot of progressive carries. Pirani carried the ball a lot, which is again what people say that he is. He carries the ball. He's not a chance creator. And then he took on 2 players and was successful once. The high in take-ons was Jared Stroud was 6 and succeeded twice. So we've not normally done that. I think we're going to sort of do that because I think the stats are a place that I think we can dig a little bit deeper on rather than just assuming like, oh, Dahome did poorly. Like, let's quantify and not just say that that's the case. So I think what you can take away from this overall is that Jared Stroud was a big offensive factor. I think Matthias Klick did what he did last year, but I think he had more players who were looking for the ball on the attack that I think enable him to be more effective. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you can also say that we need to find a secondary scorer because uh, he's not going to. Benteke is not going to score 3 a game. He has enough opportunities that he squanders that it would be very beneficial to have somebody else that you can depend on to score double-digit goals.
Yep.
I think that's it from my end. Do you have anything else you want to say about this game before we move on to
No, you ready
the
to get into questions?
many questions? Yeah. Do you want to start
Okay.
first? Or you want me to go?
I'll start first
Okay.
because I think it's one of the things that was absent from the field. Dapper Dinosaur from Discord says,
Recently new Patreon subscriber. Thank you, Dapper.
um, even though it's super early and Troy wasn't on the field, did we see anything in the game that might indicate what kind of effect he might have had on the team already? After listening to your conversation with Mark Fishkin, I got the sense that Troy was more of a people first kind of coach. Um, Maybe we saw some indications of that.
I think so. I heard 2 things. These are both things that did not happen on the field, which is
Mm-hmm.
the question. But I'm gonna, it's our podcast, so we can change the
Yep.
question. One was we found out from Angus, who was on the show last week, that Troy had a family day where he invited all of the players to bring their families to training and get acquainted with each other and sort of understand sort of like why we play and who we play for and how do we build this family camaraderie component after we got back from Saudi Arabia. That they did that. The other thing I noticed is he addressed the team after the win, and I encourage you to go. It's on YouTube right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of they always do this, but I'd say typically the post game comments are much more clipped and like just sort of, I don't know, they don't really inspire a lot of anything. But he, first of all, he comes across like a guidance counselor, like a nerd, like kind of a nerdy, nice guy. He like had notes, like things he wanted to hit, and he was just he was highlighting all the players that did really well, and just the vibe in the room. And it always is good after win, but it seems very supportive of every other member in the room. So I would say that the thing I have noticed most about this coach is that the advertisement on this is a good man and you're never going to find anybody that says anything different, and that
Mm-hmm.
he's going to help change the culture of a team that really needs it. I think early days, but it seems like that is what his mission was, and they're seeming to buy into it.
Yeah, yeah. Did you happen to catch the highlight video that DC dropped about an hour before
Mm-mm.
we recorded? They included some of the like halftime locker room audio, and so Troy was able to be in there at halftime. I think one of the things that I felt was always missing with Rooney as coach was that feeling of like passion. Like Rooney was kind of felt like a very procedural guy of like, hey, we're here, we've got a job to do, go do the job, sort of thing. But I'd encourage anybody to go take a listen. He gets really passionate. Hey, we're 1 up. Let's go F and get them in the second half. I'm excited to see that energy on the bench. So.
First question from Twitter at Marxist Stoner says, as much as I would like to see them stay on the bench, do you think Canouse and Birnbaum are back in the starting 11 when healthy? If so, who comes off? This question got asked about 5 times in different
Yep.
contexts.
Yeah. I think there's probably a yes and a no in there,
Mhm.
or a yes and a maybe. Um, I think Birnbaum, yes. I think once he's ready to go, he makes it in. Probably comes in a comfortable situation as a sub, but once he's ready to go, I think he's back in the lineup. I don't think you make him your captain if you expect him to sit on the bench. I think that if Matty Peltola continues to um, look and feel the way that he looked and feel in this game, I think Russell's going to have a fight on his hands.
I had a bit of a different take on Peltola, that I think that he had a lot of things that I thought were really good, and I think he had some things that I can attribute to youth and this being his first game in the league and it being a long time in between in between matches for him is that his internal clock for when pressure would come was too slow, and that basically he would not necessarily come to the ball when he was turning for a pass, and he would stay back, and then a defender would be able to close on him very quickly and be right on his ass when he got the ball, and didn't
Okay.
allow him to necessarily turn with it. I think that is mostly down to needing game reps, and
Okay.
it takes time to get league. But I do agree. I think Birnbaum is your captain. He's going to play. You're going to have. I mean, the fact that you were able to pitch that sort of defensive effort with a brand new center back pairing that had never played with each other before or for this club is fantastic. It only speaks to the difference between our fears about what the center back depth was going to be like and at what Mackay was thinking when he put the team together. So if that's the case, now we have a much stronger. And that McVay trade was happening pretty late in the preseason, but I'm glad it did. I think I think we're now in a much more comfortable place, and it also kind of concerns me now about Matai's possibility of playing. Where if you have three center backs that are feeling very strong, where's that fourth one get play? It's hard to say. So I think Canouse to the bench as a rotational option until Peltola proves otherwise.
Yep.
You got another one?
Yep, I do. And so this kind of goes back to the game a little bit. We didn't really touch on this in the rundown, but how much of the success on Saturday can be attributed to the fact that New England played a game in Panama on Wednesday?
A lot. I think a lot. I think if you look at the rest of the league, every team that had a midweek game performed poorly, didn't win. They either drew or lost. So without a doubt, you would think that the players would be more fresh from not having been in the middle of the league. But I think actually the opposite. You don't train to the extent that you train in preseason in the regular season. It's not the load is different. And then the travel you're not used to yet. Panama's a long flight. So yeah, I think we got lucky there. And, I think we get to see what DC United look like. It's not going to be apples to apples going to Portland on the road against a team. But it will be interesting to see sort of what DC United look against a team that has regular rest and didn't travel and is now playing 2 home games in a row, which I think Portland will be doing. Brandon Zabron from Twitter says, what is one overreaction hot take you have after week 1? I can go first if you want to think.
Yeah.
That Pirani is not our number 10. We will be in the market for a new one at in the July window. They will write this off as something you can do easily with an under 22 initiative as a player that just didn't fit the bill for the club. That's my overreaction, with the asterisk that it's been 1 week and he can get better.
My overreaction is Benteke for Golden Boot locked up. He's got it now. He's not going to give it up the whole season. Or I think I can't remember, it was on Twitter. So I think maybe Golden Forehead is what he'll have locked up. That's my overreaction.
Got another one?
I did until you asked about the shopping for number 10. We had a question about that.
What was the question? Let's make sure we get it in.
Pirani, young playmaker that needs to get used to MLS and his team or play style, or we've seen enough and now need to start shopping for a new number 10.
Who asked that? Just so we get the name out there.
Jay on Discord.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we answered, at least how I feel about it. I think that there is a real dissension. I'm trying to think of another player that's been so divisive on an eye test.
Yeah.
There have been many of them. For whatever reason, right now my brain can't think of it. But there have certainly been players where the data says one thing, the fans say another thing, and then the fans are even split too. So hard to say.
I really feel like with him, maybe the upside, at least initially, felt like he brought something that we missed when Taxi left the team, like from a playmaking perspective, of somebody who kind of could break lines on a carry. You and I talked at halftime of this game about how we were breaking lines via passing, that we hadn't been before. Something that Taxi could do when he played for us was break the lines on a carry. I
Mm-hmm.
think Ted can do that sometimes, but I think that is where Pirani's strength is. I think and we saw that probably on display the first couple times he came on. I think since then we've seen the weaknesses he has in other areas, and I don't think we've. Um, it's this weird, he's been here a while, but we also a little bit of time, but he also really hasn't had that much time to develop during that time,
Sure.
to where we've seen the other weaknesses that exist, and we haven't seen any development thereof. So I think that's kind of, your hot take is a good one if we don't see some sort of real improvement in those areas of weakness.
For sure. All right. This is RJ Olson, who is a frequent Twitter question giver. Thank you for always doing that, Richard. This is a two-parter. He said, "I wonder what the story is with Jeahze. Seems like there's a story there." And then he said, "A question in a similar vein. It doesn't look like Pedro Santos will be a good starting left back. Better as a backup. Do you think they address the left back this window?" Okay. So the thing that comes out today, RFK on Twitter. Said that the rumor on across the ocean over in Sweden is that he wants to go back to Sweden, and there's clubs that are interested on a loan or a transfer. This would be it happens at the wrong time for us. I don't know if they're thinking for the summer now. So it was asked in the post game conference, "Hey, where was he? Was he injured? He wasn't on the bench. He wasn't in the injury report. Why didn't he play?" And Troy said it was an off the field decision. They've been in communication, and that I'm going to leave it there. So that going along with the rumor that the player is unsettled and wants to move, certainly troublesome for where this club is now in the window and being unable to make a move on the international market. I believe the internal trade, you can still make some trades. The compliance deadline passed, but not the internal whatever roster deadline. It would be a huge indictment on this club to have made the risk to bring this player in, to make him the third highest paid defender in the league, and get out of him 4 games, a broken ankle, a legal problem in Sweden that was resolved, coming back, and then missing the opener due to some sort of off-the-field issue.
Right.
That would be a huge indictment on the front office for having that happen. But
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
yeah. Well, and you brought it up. The timing, I think, is the real thing here. I don't know what that looks like. But if they're pulling him now, right? So, if that rumor were to be true and they're pulling him now, and there's some sort of loan that they work out where he gets loaned out, starting now, the zero benefit to DC United, frankly, and leaves a gaping, left back size hole.
Yep.
You're probably talking about one game in. Are you thinking about how your back line is shaped, right? And are we looking at a different, are we looking at more of a 3-back system, and who would fit
And then
as like a left
your
wing
depth
back?
problem, solves itself right there, right?
Right.
You have McVay. You play Herrera as one of the 3 center backs, which was rumored before.
Yep.
It calls into question a lot of stuff. They've got bodies back there, but the only place they don't have bodies is left back.
Left back.
Pedro Santos is not the guy you can count on there week in, week out. It's just not. It's not a reasonable expectation. And I think it's great that we signed a player, Connor Antley, from Tampa Bay, like 5 minutes ago, and he already got in the game and got an assist.
And that's one of those things that you thought, maybe just like a depth pickup, he's there. Then Mohamed not being in the game in the same position,
You're right. Maybe there was some forethought there. Maybe it wasn't just a body. They were thinking like, all right, well, what can we do? We have $5 on our salary cap. What player can we get that will work this out?
Yep.
So somebody asked, I don't remember, I think it was asking on the Instagram Live, being like, does he start at Portland? Does Antley start, or does Pedro Santos start? And it seems wild to me, but I think you maybe go with a 3-back system in Portland. And then 2 6s to sit on top.
Who just put four past who'd they play this weekend?
Who did they? Well, of course, we were just talking about this. And they only scored 1. Who was it? Oh, shit. It was Colorado
Rapids,
the team that made 9,000 signings in the offseason and had some good vibes surrounding them until it got immediately squashed. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a tough one. I think is the thing that you should take away from that. And Ted will have his preview of Portland either on the website or in the Friday episode. By the way, make sure you check out. We're going to be doing post game wrap ups on the website for every game for the DC United and the Spirit this season. Previews maybe not, but post game we'll certainly do that. I think I had. But anyway, to answer your question, it is a problem. I don't know what they do. They might sign Graham Jones, who is an academy player who plays left back, but that's not really a solution either. That's just a body at this point in his career. The question that I laughed the most out loud when I read this is from Mario Aguilar, says, whose red card was dumber, Vrioni delaying a restart or Kamara taking off his jersey in 2022? And I literally started to eye twitch. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about how angry that made me. I forgot about that. By the way, the first yellow card, yeah, I guess it was the same sort of situation here.
Yep.
The Vrioni delaying a restart was the first yellow. The jersey removal was the first yellow for Kamara, who was honoring his dead grandma. So like, it's tough. There's an asterisk there for how mad you can be about him. But then he got a second yellow in the second half on a tackle inside the opponent's 18. Like just kicked a player along and then got it, and then we ended up losing the game, and that was the beginning of the end for Losada, I believe, is how that went. So,
yeah, I'm gonna say Ola Kamara because it hurt me personally. Hurt me
that's
more.
Right.
And anytime you get something that's not even in play, like I get it, but.
I agree with you entirely. Do we have any more questions from the Discord?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, guys. So thank you for getting all those questions in. We asked for them. Neither Brian nor I am used to being the MC of this show, so we appreciate you giving us a lot of stuff. I mean, a 3-1 victory also helps us a lot, have something to talk about. So I was thankful to Christian Benteke there on that front as well. So we talked about it. We've got a game this weekend, Saturday night. I believe 10:30 is the start time. So we got an MLS After Dark thing in week 2 already. Make sure you are fully caffeinated. I know that I am becoming old and that I'm going to have to plan. There's going to have to be a plan in place with caffeine. It's not just going to be like, oh, I'll just watch it. Nope. That will not be. So yeah, count on one of us doing, we'll be doing Instagram Live. I'll be in my pajamas, but we'll be doing it. It'll happen.
Ted's the youngster of the team, so tweet at him. Ted's been talking up watch-alongs in the background. So if you want to be up until like 1:30 in the morning with Ted doing a watch-along, let him know on Twitter.
Yeah, he'll do it if you make him. Or you don't even have to make him. He's just looking for an excuse. So if we just get a little bit of people telling him to do it. I want to wrap this up by saying thank you to our Patreons we've seen a couple people join here at the beginning of the season. If you want to get the episodes early, which would be Monday night on our Monday shows, if you want to get the Friday shows at all, because those only go to you, join us at the $5 tier and up at patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Another place you can support the show is subscribing to the channel on Twitch. And then the last place you can support the show if you'd like is to go to rfkrefugees.com/merch, I believe. And we've got shirts, we've got tote bags, we've got all the things you can buy that have our logo on them, including green sauce jokes. And maybe Brian had a great idea. Maybe we're gonna have some in-stadium activations around green sauce. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what's possible. Brian, thanks for stepping in tonight. Doing a great job. I can't wait for another game this weekend and a whole week slate of MLS games. So please join us next Monday night, and I'm sure we're gonna have a great show for you Friday as well. Have a great rest of your week, and catch you guys either Friday if you're a Patreon or a Monday evening if you're not. Vamos.
Yep. Vamos.
Thank you for listening to RFK Refugees Podcast. Make sure you rate and review the show wherever you download podcasts. If you want to support the show, consider joining our Patreon or subscribing to our channel on Twitch. Lastly, make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, Twitch, Goals.tv, Friendster, MySpace, and Tumblr. Some of those are even real. Vamos.